Okay, so we are going to make our kind of first animation with this character using just motion tweens here, okay? So the animation that I'm going to have you guys create is only about 1.5 seconds long, and it's a simple animation, right? And so this is what we're talking about. You can take simple character designs from Photoshop, bring them into Animate, and be able to animate those characters and kind of really bring them to life using just straight motion tweens and not having to animate frame by frame as we go, which can be like a really rather time-consuming process. So here, I'm going to play through it real quick, and you can see how the character kind of animates. Simple movement, right? So as I go through, the feet shuffle at the bottom. Notice how the body bounces up and down with each stride. Notice how the arms kind of bounce up and down as well to kind of create the sense of like, he's walking. He's staying still. He then shoots his laser cannons, and then the momentum pushes him backward the momentum pushes him backward. So here we go. Let's watch it one more time. Notice how we're doing a little bit more of the intricate animation. Notice how the front foot and the back foot are animated at kind of like 2 different rates. So, see? Kind of the front foot's kind of sliding, being pushed back, while the back foot's kind of bracing itself. So we're going to create this animation, and it's really simple, no more intricate than the ping pong thing you created. So let's do it. You ready? Let's do it. I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to make it full HD, 1920 by 1080, per always. Looks good. Let's make this full. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to import to Stage. This white thing being my stage. Let's go to my hippo.psd file. Open that. Notice how each one of these things are labeled, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to import that. Because in Photoshop I labeled them body, left arm, right arm, leg, and stuff, it's going to come in name that. And so this is perfect. I'm going to select all these and let's move them. I'm going to move them into the center. Threw them up at the top of my stage. I'm going to move it to the center so I have room to kind of walk and then fire my laser and then move back. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, I knew that my animation's about 1.5 seconds long, but I'm going to come out to 2 seconds. I'm going to select one of these frames all the way down, and I'm going to go to, oh no, oh no, this is bad. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was Zootopia. I know you saw it. It's okay. Zootopia is fun. Insert, timeline, and then frame. Okay, now I've created time, right? And I got to do the thing that you know, and now I'm going to create a motion tween on each one of these layers. Each one, control click, create motion tween. Control click or right click, depending upon the mouse you have. So I hold down control, I click, create motion tween. Same thing for all. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is kind of plot out my course of my body. Okay, so I know that from, maybe a few frames in, I'm going to, actually I'm going to have my character kind of stay at rest at first. Let's do that. And then right here on each one of these, I'm going to insert a keyframe. So timeline, keyframe, each one of these. And that means I just want the hippo to stay in place from here to here. So for those like first 4 or 5 frames, insert timeline, keyframe, insert timeline, keyframe. And notice, see this F5 right there? If on your computer, if you hit F5, that's your shortcut to add a frame. There's not one for a keyframe. At least I don't know there's a shortcut to add a keyframe. But I'm kind of old school and just kind of like to do the buttons anyway. So from here to here, I'm now going to go to where I want that body to be. Just the body. Okay, so right here. And at this point, I want it to be maybe that much. I'm going to have it move. Okay, and then I'm going to go forward a little bit more, and then I'm going to go move it again, about the same amount of space. I'm going to go again, and maybe we'll have like 4 or 5 times of it moving. Notice I'm moving it about the same amount of space, so that way it keeps a kind of consistent movement. Oh, I see that's pretty good. Now, in between each one of these, if I'm on my selection tool here, I'm going to change that arc, and I'm just going to have it bounce just a little bit. Just a little. See how like it kind of comes up just a little bit? And that kind of adds, so it doesn't feel like he's sliding as much as he is walking. So again, I'm going in between the two keyframes, and if I move my mouse with my selection tool in between the two keyframes, it'll allow me to add an arc to it, like a bounce. Now let's watch it. It's going to be weird because the body's moving without the arms, but that's all right. Okay. You know, it's moving a little bit fast. I'm not really super happy about the speed, so let's just fix that real quick. I'm going to drag these keyframes out just a little bit more. That's going to put a bit more space or more time in between each bounce. So let's see from there, then let's see how that plays. I think that seems way better. Maybe a little too much. I'm going to fine tune it just a touch. And it's important that you get the speed right on the body, because then the legs and the arms are just kind of following the template of where the body goes. Okay, I think that I'm okay with that. One more time. Cool. Now that I got my bounce going, I'm going to move each arm the same thing. So I know that the left arm right there, by this point, it needs to be over here. But I'm going to do something, okay? If I go to my transform tool, you remember that little dot there in the middle, my anchor point? I need that anchor point to be on the body, like a joint. So that way when I rotate this, it rotates around the body and not this where it normally is, because it defaults to being centered, and when I rotate it, it rotates around the center. Well, that's no good, right? So I'm going to move that anchor point over here like the shoulder to give the sense of the rotation. So right here, I'm going to move this over here under the body, and then I'm also going to rotate it upward a little bit. Here, move it over, but I'm also going to rotate it downward a bit. Here, move it over again, rotate it upward a bit, and then here, last one, move it over, rotate it downward. Let's see. Okay, I'm happy with that. That looks good. Okay, I'm going to quickly do the rest of these because you don't really need to. Well, it's very redundant. It's the same thing over and over again. Okay, so like right here, let's grab the right arm. And I'm going to stop talking here for a second while I do this. So I move my anchor point. All right. As I'm dragging this out, it doesn't really matter like how much I go up and down, just whatever you kind of think looks best. Okay, looks a little junky, but that's okay. I'm going to leave it just because I don't want to take the time to do it, because I'm sure you guys would prefer to do it yourself. Okay, same thing. Let's put that anchor point right there on the body. Actually, yeah. Let's go over here. Oh. See how I grab for the leg and I grab the body? Sometimes it's nice to just throw on the lock tool of all the layers and then just unlock the one layer that you're trying to work on it at that point. So, wrong one, right leg. Cool. All right, let's watch it, see how it turned out. Oof, what's wrong? What's wrong? Well, obviously the legs become detached from the body, right? So I have a couple of options here. I can either click up back on the body and then not have it bounce as high up. I can bring down that arc of that jump down a little bit so it's not so high, which I think I will do. because I think it is probably a little bit cartoony, too much cartoon. And this is kind of a fine-tuning thing. Let's see, did it look better? Sure. And then the legs, I'm going to also kind of bring up a little bit too. So like about right here, I can kind of bring those up a touch. Oh, no. Lock the body. Just the leg. And bring that up just a touch. So it kind of stays with the body. Stays with the body. And I'm only going to do this for one leg. So I'm going to kind of rush through this because you'll have the final project you can kind of look at where I did it. See what you think. Okay, let's see. Yeah, obviously this leg would need to be fixed by coming up as it's jumping, but I think the other leg looks great. Cool. Now that I have my character moving all the way, shuffling across the stage, and again, here's where I think is a little bit more fine-tuned movement. I like that one way more. So I would have probably taken the thing I'm working on now and kind of done this to get like more of a look that I, like more of a smooth look. But that's okay. So I'm going to create a new layer, and on that layer, I'm going to, let's drag it to the top and let's call it the laser gun thing shoot. It's a great name, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to draw my laser. Now, to do that, I want you to do a thing. I want you to look for this tool right here, and it should be your paintbrush tool. And once you go to the paintbrush tool, there is a window called the brush library. Now, mine is right here, but because I'm using Adobe 2020, so if you're at home, you should see a little icon right over here, and it has the brush library. Just look, brush inside of a tin or whatever. If you're in class, you're using 2019, the brush library, you're going to see it like right over here. You'll see the opacity, and then right next to it, you're going to see a little icon for the brush library, and open that up. Now, I want a brush, and I chose the fountain pen. I think that looks kind of cool, so I'm going to double click on it. Once I double click on it, it's going to load in the style, and then I can paint with it. Okay? So I'm going to, right about here, this is after he's settled, and I'm going to draw the laser. Looks good to me. Oh, I forgot a step. I need to insert timeline a blank keyframe because I want it to stay blank before then and then start with my laser shot. Just like that, okay? Now, I do think this looks better the bigger this thing is. So if it were me, I would try to do something that is kind of substantial. Something like that. Okay, and I'm going to treat it just like a motion tween. I'm going to create a motion tween for this, and then maybe a couple frames after I'm going to select it, and then let's get this thing out of the way. Let's zoom in a bit so I can see just the motion tween. Where? Oh no. Hold on. There we go. Not really sure why that other thing happened, but let's turn that into a motion tween. All right. So the reason why I chose to redo that is because when I went to resize it, my bounding box, oh, there it is. No, it's this one. Let's get rid of that one real quick for a second. Let me lock that. Anyway, I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to delete it. Not really sure what the issue was. There's my laser gun thing. Did I just delete it? Oh, no. It's there. Cool. Yeah. Nice. All right. So there's my laser gun thing. So I'm going to treat it like a motion tween, and after a few frames, I'm going to maybe, have it get a little bit bigger. A couple of frames after that, have it get a little bit smaller. Kind of like it's a pulsating gun or whatnot. I think that looks pretty terrible, but you guys try to do it yourself and get the exact look that you're going to go for, okay? And I'm sure maybe having it come out a little bit wider to kind of change. Oh, do you see how it extended both ways? had I, before I adjusted it, just put this over here, when I make things bigger and wider, it'll only come off that edge. So it's like expanding off of that. That looks way better, I think. Let's see. Cool. Still looks terrible. That's okay. You're going to play with this until you get exactly the look that you're wanting to go for. So let's see what it looks like. Okay, but I like the idea that that blast kind of pushes him back because it kind of adds a little physics to it, right? And so what I'm going to do for that is right about here, it's like the blast happens and then it pushes him back. So right here, I want everything to kind of get pushed back a bit. So I'm going to start with the body. I'm going to, because I moved my CTI, my scrub head, my scrubber, I'm going to push it back just a touch. Maybe that much. Okay? Let's lock that, and then I'll just go straight down and do the same thing. Push it back just a touch. Lock that one. And this one I'm not going to push back as far because I don't want to look like it's bracing itself. And then this last foot, I'm going to kind of push back there. Yeah. And then my laser. Oh, I forgot my laser. My laser cannon. And also, ooh, needs to come back too, which I can't select right now. There we go. All right. So let's see. Okay, it's pretty. I probably would go back farther. Again, you need to fix the legs and stuff. But these are all little minor details to kind of work out, and you can just go back to these keyframes and then move things around and kind of get exactly the look you want to. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to take this hippo and I want you to create this scene just like that. Okay, and play it again. All right, do your best. Let me know if you have any questions. And then if this was like a normal animation, there would be a lot more detail in this. So like, we would have the eyes be animated so I can move the eyeballs around. But for our purposes, I kept it as simple as possible and only made 5 layers for you guys to animate your motion tweens with. So that way we can kind of make it more and more complicated as we go. Okay, that's it. There you go.